Welcome to the start of your week, folks. This is So Bad It's Good. This is the Pop Culture Roundup, and I'm so excited. I've talked to this person a handful of times over the years, and she is literally one of the best in encyclopedia knowledge of pop culture. She works for one of my favorite publications out there. I look forward to the 30 times I get emails from them a day because I genuinely, like, even if I didn't do this show, I would be a subscriber to all of everything they do. I've been it since I was a kid. Us Weekly is the cornerstone of entertainment and pop culture, and she is a deputy editor there. You can see her name on all the articles. I always click on it to see like if Sarah is the one that wrote the article, and like I'm like, yes, it's a Sarah article. And anyways, I love it so much. She's also the host of the Us Weekly's Bachelor podcast, Here for the Right Reasons, which I do want to ask her about. The creator, the head of that, being let go from the actual franchise. But we have so much to talk about because today, you guys, you'll hear this on Monday. Tonight is the Met Gala, so I'm sure she is probably going to be pretty stressed. But let's get into it. Sarah Hearon, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you've noticed that I think since we last spoke, we've upped it to 5 Us Weekly newsletters a day. So we're
I want 7. I'll say I want 7. Well, and I told you this last time, but it is my favorite because sometimes it'll just be wild because then it'll be like a timeline of this person and this person. And what it was, you had the craziest one during the Scandoval stuff. It was like a timeline of all the cheating of Vanderpump Rules or something like that.
That took me like 5 hours. I wrote that one. That took me so long. And I had to like go back and I tried to remember certain episodes to like transcribe quotes because legally I knew the lawyers were going to be like, well, did they deny this? I'm like, well, I need to show that it aired on Bravo this many years ago. Like, this is not a legality problem.
Yes,
like,
Jax denied all of it. Yeah. Jax has denied every one of these.
And then they admitted it 10 minutes later. Like, they were like, does Miami Girl, has she been identified as Anne-Marie before or just Miami Girl? I'm like, oh, the lawyers. I'm like, just trust me. I got this one. We're not going to get sued over every cheating scandal that's ever watched Vanderpump Rules ever. It's all true.
Oh my God. But like, that's like, you live in this, I mean, we've all lived in this place of darkness because of Scandoval, but this is par for course. What I try to tell people is what you get excited about pop culture for are these moments where, and this is so interesting, the discourse that's happening of like, is this fake? Was this set up? And I'm like, you guys, like, come on. And at a certain point, everything's not QAnon. Like two things can be true at once. Yeah. This can even shock production because you're 10 seasons into this show, but it also gets us really hyper-focused again on something like, because right now I was going to ask you, like, do you have any celebrity couples that you're like, are you a big Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell fan? Like, what celebrity relationship are you excited about? I'm excited about Scandoval.
No, it's so true. And I think something about Vanderpump Rules that's so interesting and that people now are trying to suggest, like you said, that this was all made up because they had 2 like bad seasons and how could they have gotten away with it for so long? It's like this has happened on the show a million times. We're just watching it now in an era where things are playing out on Instagram. Things are being leaked more often. Vanderpump Rules is considered like mainstream media. Back when Jax was lying about sleeping with Kristen, not as many people cared, but it aired the same way. And it was just, we found out at the finale it was true versus finding out before the seasons finished airing. So it's just a different way of consuming it. But these people have been this messy the whole time. Like, this is,
I know, but we still act shocked. And I mean, I think there is something shocking that, you know, somebody in their 40s is doing this at such a level of hiding it for so long from the partner that they claim to love. So that's the part that I think really gets people. But it's so weird. I just noticed this thing of we can't then believe it. Like, it's not the one thing. It's now we've got to make it this other thing that it was completely set up. So you're telling me people that could barely hold a job when they actually worked at SUR are all of a sudden part of this grand conspiracy where they're learning lines, they're acting it beautifully, they're hiding things on social media. How far down does it go? I'm like, but you're right. The social media aspect, especially even for what you do, we used to get the hard copy, the soft copy of Us Weekly. Now we're getting that. We're consuming things in a different way. But like, this all makes pop culture that much more in your face. And it's, the news cycle isn't, I mean, the news cycle is like minute to minute now, it feels.
Yeah, it is. And it also, I mean, in my opinion, acting, that scene between Tom and Tom at the bagel place reminded me why their acting careers didn't take off.
Yes!
Like, what are we doing here, people? Like, are you kidding me? They looked ridiculous.
Well, he's talking about, of course, the scene that opened Vanderpump Rules she's talking this past week where it looked, see, like, that's the thing. Like, I believe Tom and Tom were in on it. I think they thought they were being sly for production and fooling everybody when they're so bad. He's like, Tom, I think she's got a crush on somebody else. Yeah. And you could see his little sly smile, like, really, dude? That's crazy, dude. You know, like,
that was really good. That was really good.
So like when this broke, I mean, of course, I want to talk about a lot of different things, but when this broke, like a month and a half, 2 months ago, it all blurs together now. In the Us Weekly, I mean, was it like go time? Was it like my weekend shot? Like, what was the conversations you guys were having in terms of covering this?
Well, it was 3:00 on a Friday, Eastern Standard Time. I always remember where I was when things like this happen that are going to inconvenience my life. This one, at least I was kind of excited just because I love Vanderpump Rules and I still have a little bit of like, I'm not so jaded. Like certain things happen and I'm like, okay, I don't care about this stupid celebrity. And like, of course they're filing for divorce on Labor Day. Like they can go F themselves. But when it's something I care about, at least I'm like, all right, like we gotta, there's a little pep in my step. And I remember it was 3:00 because I was in a meeting. We were all on Zoom. And I got the TMZ notification and I was like, oh my God, someone at TMZ confused Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz. Like that was my instinct. Because TMZ doesn't really cover Vanderpump Rules. Like now they do. Clearly they got someone on the inside. But they were not really like the go-to Vanderpump source. So I was like, okay, they messed this up. How could this be true? But then when I went to Instagram and saw that Ariana deleted her Instagram, I was like, okay, that's at least an angle we can run. Ariana deletes Instagram amid rumors because always we're trying to confirm it. We're out to the reps. We're out to whatever the source is. And I'm like trying to come up with something to get something up as fast as possible in a way that we can cover it. And then James like posted the screenshot and I couldn't find where he posted it because I thought he commented on someone and Bravo historian Sam had posted it. So I texted her and I was like, where did you see this? And she was like, James's page. And I was like, what? I didn't even think to go to James's page because I thought him posting the screenshot of TMZ was so ludicrous. I thought he had like commented on, the Bravo fan accounts are doing so much work these days that like the comments you have to find them and whatever. So I thought that's where it was, but it was on his own page. So then it was like, okay, now we have a lot of legwork to do. And that was a long night. That was a long night.
No, and my dumb mind, I didn't believe it even when James Kennedy posted it because I was like, you bitter dick. I've heard both Tom and Ariana stand by you, and now you're just going to believe that? Because I genuinely didn't believe it until, like you said, like, crazy. And then I got word from somebody in the actual story. I was like, oh no, because and that's why I think this is still lasting to this day, on top of it is fascinating to finally watch something that you can now go back and find evidence on social media. You can find the Instagram posts where Raquel and Tom legitimately are always hanging out. You see all of these stories. But then also the proliferation of, and I hate to use this term, fake news. What I've noticed and try to rally against on my show, especially where I'm getting very tired of people just saying, no, I have it on good authority that this is all fake. I have it on good authority. Jack said this or Jack. And they're posting literally just illegitimate quotes, like nothing that is real. And that's why I think it's so important for what you do, where we do need somebody to like actually verify things because there's so much fake stuff out there right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the point where like, I don't know how, like, it's just the amount of stuff that gets thrown out there is crazy and it's fun to some degree, but it does take like a weird turn. And I always find it fascinating what people like decide as fact. And I always am trying to get back to the root of where we were. And I think sometimes the internet just has this like group mentality where they just agree that something happened. And I'm like, but why and where and how? And, it's just part of my job. But I think it's also just something that I find important. Like, I don't really understand when we all just decided to like agree on certain things. I had an example. There was something that I was like, the internet woke up and chose to believe this. Was not long ago. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, where are we getting this information? And the amount of people that were texting me, I'm like, yeah, but where did you hear it? And it's like, somehow everyone just heard it. And it's so silly. But when you bring up like Jackson stuff, it also makes me laugh. Like if you would have told me that Jackson Brittany would have gotten like a 3-episode Peacock spinoff watching Vanderpump Rules again, like in what world? Like they are working fast over there.
Oh, I mean, the guys, and that's the other, this is classic Jax. Jax said of like, yeah, this has been in the works for a while. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
No, it hasn't.
It was in the works legitimately after you didn't watch What Happens Live. And I was like, you got to remember, two things can be true at once. Jax can still be a liar and Scandoval can be a scum. Like,
exactly.
These things still, like even DJ James Kennedy, who is having like a great season, if you want to judge it by like sports standards and players, he still says some horrible things. He's still going to have to deal with his alcoholism potentially down the road. There are a lot of things, but it's funny. As much as we want to make people villains, we need somebody to be heroes too. Like, that's why I think Ariana is being championed behind. But also, what do you think, to your point of, you said this is important? It is important to a lot of us, and we should, like, I always think, why are we ashamed of liking what we like? Even last night you saw Lala, Ariana, and Lisa at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and some people were like, what are they doing there? And I'm like, you don't even understand. Can you explain what the Correspondents' Dinner is for people out there that don't know?
I mean, from little I know about it, it's the press. So it's like they get together and it's all the people who have been covering the White House and the policies and all that fun stuff that we don't actually care about. Just kidding, we really do. And it's like it's a dinner, and it's kind of lighten the mood, like a thank you, but also then there's always like a comedian who does stand up and makes fun of both sides of the thing. It kind of tries to like even it out, and it's all press. So the press invite people with them. So Lala was there with the LA Times, and if you follow Lala, you know that a lot of Randall Emmett allegations have broken in the LA Times. She clearly has a relationship with the LA Times. The Daily Mail invited Ariana and Lisa Vanderpump, which if you read the Daily Mail, you know that Lisa Vanderpump knows someone at the Daily Mail. So it all makes sense if you look at it that way. And they are guests of the press. Julia Fox, not sure who invited her, but she took the assignment seriously. And it said a lot about, honestly, maybe where we are at, though, in maybe not being ashamed by who was there. Because it was, you always have actors and people there who do philanthropy or who maybe get involved in campaigns, depending on who's in the White House. But the fact that there was several Bravo celebrities and that Scandoval became a joke in a punchline.
Yeah,
talking about Tucker
Roy
Carlson
Wood Jr.
is crazy.
Yeah, Roy Wood Jr., who works for The Daily Show, he was the host of this one, and he even, talked about the Scandoval in regards to Tucker Carlson and text messages and things like this, and they did a great shot of Ariana and the audience reacting to it, and to me, that makes me proud when we can legitimize something that we make our livings off of. Before I even did that, I was just a huge fan. So I want people to love it in the right way. I want people to know the truth of these things, just like we want to know about our political landscape, just like we want to know about science. I think this is the same thing, but it is funny to hear people like, what the hell are they doing there? I'm like, they always have celebrities at these things. This is not new. It's just that people still find it hard to believe that this is actual news, but like, get over it. It is.
I know. I don't really care. That's the other thing. It's like, just don't. People have been saying this obviously about the Kardashians, about whoever forever. And it's like, I promise you, if people weren't clicking on it, it wouldn't be being written. And I feel like I've said that to you before, but if you go on a homepage of whatever outlet you want, there's a reason that everything went up on there. If there's 5 stories about Vanderpump Rules pinned to the homepage, it's because that's what people are clicking on. And we have to, produce a certain number of clicks and page views a day. And balancing that with what's happening in the news and making, fact checking and doing our own research and breaking our own stories, but also, again, keeping up with what, these people are doing in their everyday life. And obviously some things get curated, they don't, the paparazzi weren't hanging out in Valley Village before, but they are because people want to buy those pictures. So it goes both ways. You know what I mean? And I think what you said about 2 things being able to be true is my biggest takeaway from Scandoval, because in what world are we saying like justice for Jax? Like, he can have an opinion, but like, he's still awful too. And I think James Kennedy is hilarious, but lest we not forget he fat shamed someone every other word.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Both things are true.
I hate the day that I bump into James Kennedy and calls me a fat fuck. He's like, you fat fuck, right, with your big belly hanging over your Old Navy jeans, Ryan Bailey. I mean, like, that's the thing, is that nobody's a hero on this show, really. Nobody. Like, in fact, Ariana is she's barely in the show this season. And you see, her dog died, her grandma died, her relationship died, and she's barely on. I remember talking to her in October, and she said, listen, the season unfortunately wasn't what I wanted it to be, because I dealt with so much tragedy. Like, she was talking about, she was like, I wish I could have partied with everybody and stuff. And I'm like, looking back on that interview now, I just think how dark that was, because and people don't realize too, there was months in between the end of filming and this happening. Right. So there was so much more of this relationship between Tom and Raquel that we will not be privy to, because the show does end at a point, and this lasted for months while they were editing and things like that. And that's the darkest part, because imagine how it really grew when the cameras were down.
No, I know. We're in like September now, I think early September and what's airing because that was like around Lala's birthday. And then they wrapped before the end of September. So there's a couple episodes left and then they picked up the cameras to do that like bonus episode in March. And obviously the reunion taped already. I just think that that's what's so shocking to me thinking about like October, November, December, January, February. That's 5 months where Sandoval and Raquel were doing their sneaky little things, not so sneaky, right in front of our faces, the Halloween costumes, the trips to St. Louis, BravoCon, the sweatshirt, like so many of those things. And that's so dark because you think even when they're filming, like maybe they're rationalizing it, like we're on this show, they're like soap opera, like I don't know, somehow they're getting off on getting away with it in front of cameras. But then to have the cameras go away, they all go about their everyday life. These are their real lives. And it's so dark to think about those 5 months. Like in what world?
We were both at BravoCon, and I think I think I bumped into you on maybe Sunday or Saturday, and I had been up all night I'd lost all my equipment or got stolen, and then I partied with Sandoval and Ariana and Raquel and Sheena and Kyle from Summer House, and like we were partying like 4 a.m. And I remember at the very end, I was with Tom and Ariana. Raquel wasn't there; they were going back up to their bedroom, and now I think back to that, going like, I wouldn't have been able to tell you anything weird was going on. Like it was literally just par for course of Ariana was like, Tom, let's go to bed. And, you know, he was all excited because he had just performed with the most extras at BravoCon triumphantly.
Yes.
Which I don't think that will happen again.
Big spot.
I mean,
from
listen,
I was Tom Sandoval, the most extras.
I was sitting there, Dan. I was sitting there like shaking. I mean, I was very excited for him. But now even the most extras, it hits differently. Like I don't think I'll be back to a show anytime soon. But it is weird. Like you think about what's going on in their minds, or any cheater for that matter, because cheating seems to be a big thing that is a recurring issue for men.
Especially on the cast of Vanderpump Rules.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's like it's a microcosm for everything else that I think all men are doing out there. Potentially. It seems like it keeps coming out. I just, I find it gross though, to think how deep this secret was. It was an open secret to some, and there was like a boys club where Schwartz is like, yeah, brother, all right, oh, cool.
If there wasn't the Schwartz of it all, I don't think they would have gotten away with it for nearly as long, because even like thinking about BravoCon, like I remember the Vanderpump carpet and I asked them all about Schwartz and Raquel. Like it was so like of the process, because everyone was so surprised by that. And like, that was also like, oh, we're going to get a good season of Vanderpump Rules. And that was kind of the first time the cast was allowed to talk about it on record as close as they ever could, because that broke in August when it happened, but they were still filming. And then the BravoCon carpet was the first time they were doing like a lot of press. And I just remember everyone was asking about Schwartz and Raquel, and it was like Katie was there. So that was awkward. So no one was like at all looking. It was the perfect thing.
And it was going to be the main storyline.
And it lasted them until February when it premiered, because up until then, everyone was still asking about it. And when you go back and watch some of those interviews, it's crazy to see the Toms especially together, but it's shocking. I think that's what made it go for so long, is that Schwartz was like the perfect distraction, not only within the group, but also within like the media side of it, because the Toms do a lot of press together. They do a lot. It's hard to get one Tom without the other, honestly. So they have to be in some sort of, understanding of things. And who knows what Schwartz knew? I don't know if he'll ever admit it truthfully, but he obviously was okay with sitting there and being asked repeatedly about his relationship with Raquel, knowing that his best friend had his own relationship with Raquel to some degree. What degree, we don't know, because he's clearly changing his story based on Watch What Happens Live versus even the reunion. Andy's face when he was like, that's not what you said last week. I was like, oh my God. Like, so the Watch What Happens Lives are like also becoming must-see TV for Vanderpump. It's so interesting.
I feel like Us Weekly should come out of retirement in terms of hardcover issues or softcover issues and do a whole Scandoval, just like, because I want something. They're called all of your articles could put in this, and it could be a collector's edition for all of. By the way, it would sell insanely well. I'm telling you, a great idea. You at the airport, you do a collage of like, I mean, I would think it would just be amazing. Anywho, please credit me if that actually happens.
I will.
Thank me, or let me write a little forward.
You can do the intro.
Yeah, please. When I say Scandoval, what do I think of? Okay. Another thing I've noticed in like celebrity media right now in this last couple of weeks is they're really and I have to explain to a lot of my audience because they still don't know, is there are two actors, Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, that are an upcoming romantic comedy that you know, all of a sudden, even in filming this romantic comedy, they're both in bathing suits a lot of the time. And we were seeing on like Daily Mail, we were seeing all of these outlets posting these photos of like filming. And I didn't care. Like, I like Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria, but I don't care. And then we see now they're really, I don't know if it's true or not, but they're trying to push out the idea that Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney are together because Glenn was with a girlfriend for 3 years. She unfollowed Sydney Sweeney and I believe Glenn Powell on Instagram, and Sydney Sweeney was engaged. And now, even though they went out last night and there were photographs taken of them, they weren't wearing she wasn't wearing her engagement ring. And we also now have photos over the weekend of Glenn and Sydney at a zoo with a giraffe and Glenn's family. And also, it's just one of those funny things where I will talk about this sometimes and people are like, I still don't even know who that is. I don't even know if I care. What information do you have on this? It's so weird that this is getting pushed out so hard.
Yeah, I can say a few things about it. One, I think people who watch Euphoria like die for Euphoria. Yeah. The Top Gun thing last year was everyone loved Top Gun Maverick. So I think it's kind of the perfect storm of, there's obviously people who don't recognize the name Glenn Powell or the name Sydney Sweeney, but you probably remember the Top Gun came back last year and you probably have heard of Euphoria. Like, so that's why I think that's the first step. It has to be things that are just like, they touch the surface enough that enough people know what it is. That's like kind of, I feel like, rule one of a scandal. Like, you have to have some sort of entry point, especially if it's not like as good of a scandal as it probably is. But this is Euphoria, Top Gun, last year, very big shows, especially with Sydney Sweeney and her character, like the Jacob Elordi, the Maddie, whatever. That was like a big storyline on Euphoria. So Gigi Paris was Glenn Powell's girlfriend. She had gone to visit him in Australia and then unfollowed Sydney Sweeney after that trip, and now has since unfollowed Glenn Powell. Those two have broken up. There are some sources saying they've had a rocky relationship for a long time. So this is a long time coming. It has nothing to do with Sydney Sweeney. And then you have Sydney Sweeney's relationship with this. I think he's like a film producer or director. He's older than her.
Yeah.
And they've always had like a weird one. Like it's been months that we've been trying to figure out, way before she started shooting this Glenn Powell movie, if they were still together, because they got engaged. It was confirmed like last around like March or May. And then she kind of has been wearing this ring on and off for a long time. But she's one of those stars that, I guess, you get to a certain level. Sometimes you get to jump some of the steps and you don't have to answer questions about your personal life, and you have a really good publicist and you're on such a hit show on HBO that you get to do certain things. And this younger generation of celebrities, it's not like when, Ben Affleck, I feel like, still has to answer questions about Jennifer Gardner every time he does a press tour. But somehow like these younger stars, like, just get away with being like, I'm not going to tell you. And that's power to them, I guess. But it always comes out. And what I think, and what I've kind of heard, and my understanding of the situation, is Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney are not together. I think she is still with her fiance. He is not with Gigi Paris. Gigi Paris kind of got screwed in this situation. And they saw an opportunity where people were, for whatever reason, into watching this off-screen thing, this movie that didn't even have a title when it was like announced. Yeah. It was just like an R-rated rom-com they're going to film in Australia. Those boat pictures came out first. Then the pictures, he spent a lot of time, his family, he does this weird thing where in all his movies, he like gives his family roles. Like they're like in the background. So that's why they were like in Australia and they were like spending Easter with Sydney Sweeney. I don't really know. But I think that Gigi Paris got screwed and was not okay with the fact that Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney were on board with getting promotion for their movie this way. So
you're saying this is not necessarily a hot and heavy romance. Mm-hmm. Who knows what the future holds, but it is interesting though, because like I said earlier, we're thinking about in terms of Scandoval and what's real and what's not. But at the same time, we live in such a different media landscape than we did 20 years ago when the Ben Affleck, Jennifer Gardner, J-Lo stuff, all of that stuff, which we would read about in magazines and stuff like that. Now everybody has to compete with TikTok stars, YouTubers. What we consider a star is completely dissipated. And I feel like this is our last bastion of let's bring out movie stars. What if we could create something like we did, 20 years ago when people really cared about movie stars and really helped this movie, which people will now recognize this movie when you see a trailer in it like 3 months from now, and it will help both of their careers individually. I mean, it seems like a win-win, except that I never think it's great when you're potentially messing with the audience that you're courting.
Yeah, no, I think it's also, my gut tells me that they didn't like plan this necessarily, but for whatever reason, like people saw those photos and like went for it. And I think part of it is because Euphoria fans are like, that's like a very watch show. They're very intense, and everyone like liked the shirtless scene in Top Gun. Like, I think that it was just like, these are two hot people.
That is true.
Right. Like, these are just two hot people that like look good in photos. And I also think the power of an image is so crazy, because I will never forget, like when that picture came out of, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston like seemingly holding hands or touching at the SAG Awards or whatever it was a couple years ago.
Yes.
If you watch the video, they barely look at each other. It's 0.1 second, and the picture makes it look like the reunion of all reunions. The video, like, I hate to break it to you, haven't seen it. She doesn't even make eye contact with him.
You're
like,
seeing decades though, like, but you're seeing decades, and we're putting our own feelings like we do with our animals, where we're like, oh my God, they're so sad, but we're putting all of this emotion onto them because we lived through the Brad Pitt, Jennifer. And wouldn't it be amazing, because we've had such a kick, like such a horrible couple of years. Wouldn't it be amazing if they got back together? We did the same thing with Ben Affleck and J-Lo. Wouldn't it be amazing?
Somehow that was real.
That actually, shocked that was real. But you're right.
Has always been one for me. He's such a gift. He's like delivers something every couple of months, whether it's a meme or I don't even know.
I think he's talented in what he does with his actual work. He's one of the best meme makers out there in terms of inspiration. I mean, the guy can do it. That's a triple threat in my book. Okay, so Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney, that is great to know. In terms of celebrity pop culture landscape tonight, like I said, is the Met Gala. The theme is Karl Lagerfeld. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what should we be looking out for? And what take us through your process, what you have to do tonight? Because by the way, Blake Lively is not going to be on the red carpet or whatever carpet.
No.
Why? Did somebody piss her off?
I don't know. I think she actually don't know why she isn't going to be there. She's a pretty big one. I hate the Met Gala. This is going to make me sound bitter. It's just my least favorite day
because you have to work it.
Well, I have to work like everything, but the Met Gala is so stressful because, and it kind of blows my mind. It's quite humbling for these celebrities because they all just like stand in line to get their photo taken. Like, the Met Gala is one of the only times where they really do like have to like get in formation, get in order. It's a small window. They're all always late and they all show up at the same goddamn time. So we're over here, prepping. And also people drop out a lot. Like, there's like, it's kind of secretive who's going to go, but then sometimes people don't like to confirm because things change, which I don't really know why. I don't know if people don't like, there's things with designers or what, but like a lot of celebrities refuse to confirm they're coming. So we're over here like prepping stories, hoping like we can figure out who's actually going to show up and what potential exes are going to run into each other. I don't know if you saw a couple months ago, I think it was after the Oscars, like Vanessa Hudgens and Austin Butler walked past each other and like talk about an actual video where she just ignored the hell out of him. And he, I think, is supposed to be going with Kaya Gerber, and I think she's also supposed to be going. So that could be an interesting one. We love like exes running into each other at Us Weekly, and the Met Gala is a big one because that is where a lot of like A-listers do show up. But I just think it's so stressful because it's not like an event or you're watching. There's no commercial break. It's just everyone showing up in that like from like 6 to 8 o'clock window. It's just insane. And then you're waiting for the photos to come in and you're like, oh, this person didn't show up. It's like, oh no, Rihanna's just late. Cause like, she's always late. Like it's really stressful.
Is there any truth to the rumor that Tom Sandoval and Rachel are going to be there at the Met Gala? No,
is that a rumor you started?
By the way, can we start that right now?
Sure.
That's Weekly. Like, but by the way, I mean, that is one thing where, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that's one thing. But the Met Gala, I do not think, the closest they've came to reality television really, I believe, are the Kardashians. And we had a rumor a couple of months ago that none of the Kardashians were going to be invited, which actually that rumor kind of took off. And then we found out that Kim is going.
Not true.
I remember thinking it was true because I read it on a couple of reliable pages and I was like, wow, that's wild. What a weird step. And then we find out that Kim is definitely going. I believe Kendall is going.
Yeah.
Which Kendall last night.
Kylie will be there, but I don't know why, but I don't expect Kylie and Timothée Chalamet to be walking the carpet together. That's all I'll say.
Is Kylie and Chalamet still a thing? Is that even still in the works?
I don't know. I think between Kendall and Bad Bunny and Kylie and Timothée Chalamet, there's maybe some hanging out going on over there, but I don't know how true any of it really is. But from what I've heard, Kylie is not going to be there.
Well, we saw Kendall and Bad Bunny coming out from Carbone, Celebrity Hangout Carbone in New York last night. Kendall's nipples fully protruding. She had a sheer top and I guess that whatever relationship is still going because Bad Bunny's coming off 2 weeks at Coachella. So it'll be interesting. And Bad Bunny actually, in terms of fashion, I noticed he's very into fashion. So I'll be very curious what he wears to the Met Gala. I still love that one Jared Leto one where he carried his head. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. See, like the pictures and stuff are fun. It's just one of those things that it's like, it's just so stressful. And the Met Gala is also interesting because they did start inviting like YouTubers and like influencers that way. I think it's just supposed to be people that have like influence in fashion. And like as much as the Vanderpump Rules kids are having influence in culture, I don't know if like fashion is where like imagine like Sheena Shea at the Met Gala.
Yeah,
like
you're telling me Sheena Shea's It's All Happening shirts aren't gonna like pop off,
right? Like I don't think Send It to Daryl is gonna get on the carpet, but like I'd wear it to the Met Gala.
What if we do a Send It to Daryl like couture dress?
I mean, like let's go. Like Blake Lively wishes she was being dressed by Give Them Lala, but that's why she's not going, I guess, because they weren't available.
Dorit's Beverly Beach is a huge presence on the Met Con.
I don't know how Karl Lagerfeld would have felt about, Kyle Bilene too, but unfortunately we can't ask him. But yeah, that's what they're paying tribute to, and Anna Wintour, that's still her baby, so we'll see. But it must get that'll be interesting.
It seems like we all pay attention to it. And it seems like if you guys have a whole team of people working on it, that it seems like people are definitely, there is a hunger for that. Kim posted a photo at Karl Lagerfeld's house with his cat. The cat looked like he hated Kim. Like
the cat also looked like her old cat, Mercy. You remember Mercy? When Kanye got Kim a cat? That like unlocked a memory seeing that little cat.
You need to do a whole series of articles on fallen celebrity
Kardashian
pets. Well, you could even do it with Vanderpump too to get that, because you have Dog the lizard that Schwartz killed within the first year. You have Jiggy, of course. You have so many fallen pets, and Kardashians, they like had like all these like mini teacup dogs. And you never see them again. I do wonder anyways, what is it about Kim though that she is in this almost like this front runner position now, which is so shocking. We've talked like, ad nauseum about where she's come from to where she is now, which is shocking, but she really is, for somebody that is not even of model height. She's a very short person, which is not bad, but she is the one that all of these designer houses are going out to of like, and so she's going to, I believe, wearing something Karl Lagerfeld, correct?
Yeah, I think it's the extremes that Kim goes to, at least in the more like this recent era, like post Kanye, when she did the whole Met Gala where she was like, there's Marilyn last year, but then the year before that, she just like wore like all black, like she was like a ghost. It's just so over the top. And then the Marilyn thing and the lost 16 pounds in this amount of time. Like there's always a narrative.
That was just last year, wasn't it?
That was just last year. She was with Pete at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and then Pete at the Met Gala. Those were two back-to-back moments.
You're right.
Yeah.
For some reason, I want to think that's like 5 years ago or something, and it was just last year. Yeah, I wonder how she transformed her body this year.
I know.
Like, wouldn't it be great if one year she's like, I gained 20 pounds for this Met Gala because I wanted to fill out a certain dress?
It also would be interesting for her to do the Kardashians. We're seeing they're getting very, very tiny. They're like kind of going with opposite of what their whole shtick was. That they kind of, like they had the asses, they like were okay with, it was like kind of a moment. Like obviously they were still ridiculously good looking, and then the surgery and whatever, still unattainable. But when they first started, there was something to be said for being curvier, and the Kardashians, and like that was great. And Khloe, back when she looked like Khloe, was like one for the real people, and now she's love you, Khloe, but what the hell. And I think that it's interesting. I feel like Khloe and Kim are just get tinier and tinier, and it's almost like it's kind of sad, and it's interesting with the Ozempic of it all and the era we're in. Like, I just wonder imagine, because even the Marilyn stuff, when she got backlash for it, she was like, I'm like an actor preparing for a role. She's Ben Affleck.
She's De Niro. She's Robert De Niro all of a sudden. Yeah.
So what if she went the other way? We've seen actors gain weight plenty of times.
That would be mind blowing. I would have to bow down to her in a way, because I'd be like, wow, what a way to shut people up and say that you can still look beautiful with curves, with weight. I think that would be such a groundbreaking moment that they probably haven't even considered. Because they'd be like,
are they listening?
Are you? Yeah, exactly. I know Kim used to. I think I turned her off with a couple of my opinions.
Got it.
Remember that one time when she dressed like a couch when she was pregnant with Kanye? Yes. She had the same like couch design. So I'm interested from that standpoint, but I'm also interested. I like when people get a little nutty. I remember Frank Ocean brought out the green baby
Right. Oh God. Yeah.
his appearance. So we'll see, but I'm so sorry that you're going to be having to go through that tomorrow.
It's
Cause
okay.
it's, I mean, when do you, is there shifts at Us Weekly of like, you're going to
Yeah.
take the 5 to 6 PM slot. You're going to take the 6 to
Yeah.
7.
Well, there's shifts every day just because we have to be covered from 8 to 8 a.m. or 7 a.m., 7 or 8 a.m. Eastern time to 11 p.m. Eastern time. So we're
There's
always
not
set
an
up.
overnight crew.
No, not right now. We have someone goes to us 11 p.m. Eastern time. And then we used to have someone who worked in Australia. That was Freier because she worked like overnight technically. Because that was her time. So that was awesome. And then yeah, for stuff like this, I mean, this week's nuts because it's not only the Met Gala, but also King Charles' coronation is on Saturday, which is like fun.
Is that going to be a big deal besides the Harry of it all? Like, you know,
No.
Prince King Charles, you know, obviously he had problems getting anybody to perform in his coronation, and now
he settled with the crew of American Idol, Katy Perry and Lionel Richie.
Katy Perry, Lionel Richie, and Ryan Seacrest is going to do a song too, I hear.
Right.
No, but you know, he had went out to all of these big names, and a lot of people turned him down, which also shows you the how the monarchy has slipped in ratings, as it were, over the years. And you almost, if he wasn't such a doofus, feel bad for King Charles, because it just feels like it's not going to have the pomp and circumstance of, you know, earlier generations and the power of his mom.
The royal family is so, I mean, like, I can't stand them anymore after like how long I've been working at Us Weekly because we cover them every time they breathe. Yeah. But it is, I'm fascinated by the numbers always because it surprises me after big events, like after Queen Elizabeth's funeral, the things that did well, like the classics, Meghan and Harry are always going to do well for Us Weekly. People, what they can pretend that they don't like it and don't want to know, but the amount of numbers that Meghan and Harry bring in, good and bad, both positive coverage and both negative coverage, whether it's, you know, a royal expert says this or a statement from them, like it's unreal, the numbers that they bring in. And Will and Kate, a little more hit or miss. People do like seemingly root for them, but that core four of did they look at each other? Did they interact? Body language expert, royal expert. It's unreal.
Yes,
it's
right,
unreal.
You're right.
And it's because they're so unattainable, but also like, then we'll get like Princess Anne, like Queen Elizabeth's sister, like curtsying will be our top story. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, who cares? So we don't know if it's going to bring good numbers, but we have to try and go through all the kind of things. But it's Meghan not going, I think is interesting because that leaves room for Harry. I don't even think we'll see Harry really interact with his family because he's not allowed
I heard
to, like,
he
be
actually
on the balcony or anything.
Yeah, his seat placement is even very kind of like screw you, Harry seat placement. Like, how dare you write that book seat placement?
Yeah, he'll be with like Eugenie in the back and Beatrice.
Well, I guess you're right. I'll probably watch parts of it, and that will actually. So it's going to be on this Saturday or Sunday.
It's Saturday the 6th.
Pete Davidson is coming back to host the season finale of Saturday Night Live. So it's going to be a huge TV day, which I think the Pete Davidson of it all, he has a new show called Bupkis coming out on Peacock, which looks pretty good, actually. I do find it funny that he's coming back to host because he was on SNL, but he was on SNL in a way that he never had to do.
He was never there.
Yeah, he didn't have to go do all late night writing meetings. He didn't have to. And he was, I don't want to say disliked by the cast, but they just didn't really get to know him from what the cast would say, that they didn't get to really hang out. And he was in such the storm of dating Ariana Grande, dating Kim Kardashian, having Kanye threaten him, all of these things. And I remember, like, he was just at this different level, even though when he would do a sketch, he was, you know, I think Pete's a very funny person, but his sketch comedy was very subpar in terms of, that's why he worked best on like Weekend Update.
Yeah.
So I'll be very curious to see, you know, but he does have, he's a great sense of humor. So I'll be curious to see what they do with him, but just keep that on your put that on your DVR, you guys. I wanted to swing to The Bachelor, which you cover on your podcast weekly. Now, we just ended a cycle of The Bachelor, correct?
We did. Zach and Katie are still going strong. So, you know, we'll see.
Thank God. Thank God. But there was big news because the, what's his name? Mr. Fleiss?
His name is Mike Fleiss. Yes.
Mike Fleiss. He was kind of what's the nice word to put it? It was retired from the Bachelor franchise.
Yeah, so Mike Fleiss created The Bachelor a long time ago. We're about to be on season 20 of The Bachelorette, and season 27 of The Bachelor is what just wrapped up. So it was like 2002 he created The Bachelor, and there's conflicting reports about how involved he's been in these last couple years. But he obviously is the creator of the show, so he's always going to get credit. He's going to get paid, but he officially like departed the franchise is what they always love to say in The Bachelor, like depart. Even with Chris Harrison, it's like, okay, departed the franchise. And he's been controversial for a long time. It's a couple years ago, Caitlin Bristow, when she was the Bachelorette, she wanted to be on Dancing with the Stars. She was about to sign the contract. And then he came to her, it came out later. He came to her and he said, I'm sick of people coming on my show to try to be famous. And she said, well, dancing is one of my passions. And he said, well, Sean, who was the guy she picked, should be your passion now. So he blocked her from being on Dancing with the Stars. And a couple years later,
didn't she go on to win?
Yeah. So then they let her go on a couple years later. And I think it was kind of almost like a forgiveness in the Me Too era of Mike Fleiss has been allegations of being sexist and misogynistic and a little racist. So there's obviously been a casting problem within The Bachelor for a long time. And there's all these reports saying he would make comments like minorities just don't bring ratings. We can't destroy the show. Like we woke culture. We're not going to keep up with it, whatever. And then when Chris Harrison and that whole scandal happened, they hired a lot of different people behind the scenes of The Bachelor to do an attempt to, diversify the cast, because you can't diversify in front of the camera if you're not diversifying behind the camera, because who's going to sign on and trust any of these people if it's, they're not represented behind the scenes. So it was interesting timing just because a lot has happened in the Bachelor franchise in the last couple of years in people wanting change and to be accountable, but then also people, still bitter about Chris Harrison losing his job and things like that. But these reports, they make a lot of sense. I think he definitely was old school and had some misogynistic tendencies, allegedly. And there was also, he had this like really bad scandal like a decade ago with his then pregnant wife where he was accused of beating her. But like all that got brushed under the rug. So I don't know if there was just a moment of the show. Like, I don't know what was the straw that broke the camel's back, but I also had heard that he was involved if he wanted to be. So if they were going to pick someone to be the lead and he didn't like it, he still had a say, despite them trying to say he hasn't really been involved in the last 5 years. So I don't know if there was an argument over the very future of the show that they couldn't come to an agreement with, and that's why they cut ties with him. But messy. Hopefully means good things for The Bachelor, but I don't know. I don't know what holds for that show.
Well, because you're such a fan of the show and you work in the show in terms of covering it, like where are you at with the show in terms of your personal opinion, and can they right this ship, or do you think the ship is still great? It doesn't need work.
I don't think it's going anywhere. They are moving The Bachelorette back an hour for the first time, so that's kind of like a signal of, okay, it's airing at 9:00 instead of 8:00, like in TV.
Let's get
world.
Sexier.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just think it's interesting to note because it's been in that 8:00 Monday night spot for a really long time. They had a couple Tuesdays because of like COVID related stuff last year. But listen, The Bachelor is not that expensive to make. The ratings aren't great, but no cable ratings are. They're good enough. Yeah. People still talk about it. They still like, even Zach's season covering it, which was the most recent one. Like I stopped doing weekly written recaps because no one was reading them. But then the last couple episodes, Zach, he slept with the wrong girl and all of a sudden everybody cared. And I think it's because maybe people stopped watching, but then we're like, oh, why are people talking about this show again? So it's interesting. I don't know exactly where they're going to go with it, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it would make a move to a streaming like a Dancing with the Stars before it ever went away, but I don't even think they're going to do that. I think maybe, Bachelor in Paradise we would lose before we lost the flagship. I think The Bachelor still does better than all three of them for whatever reason. People come to expect it. They like to tune in on Mondays or the next day, whatever, watch it in and out. So it's never going to be as big as it was. It never is.
Yeah.
But I don't
think
it's
still a fabric anywhere. Of reality television
it's
in
not
terms of the history
anywhere.
of it.
And how many dating shows launch a year that we never see again? Like it would just be them trying to come up with a new one.
Well, but it is interesting of Mike Fleiss saying, I'm tired of people coming on just to be celebrities, which is, sorry, Mike, that's literally what it is. But I like the thought of like, I want people to come on to find love. Like, I like that element of even with Love is Blind, where it's like, you're trying to get the audience to believe in the conceit that they really, truly want to find their life partners. And as you get older, you realize how ridiculous that thought is of like, it is so it's so hard to find somebody to love in this world to begin with, but then to do it on television for cameras, you realize there's no way. Like that Love is Blind, we're coming off of that season, which actually was really popular in terms of just how much people were talking about it. And you're just like, come on, guys, like really, like maybe one of you guys will make it, hope maybe. And it's so weird. You were talking about, I think or the Hot Hollywood podcast, I was noticing, I think, talking about the dust up of the Nick and Vanessa Lachey hosting.
Oh, yeah.
But it's interesting, though. We had the same issue kind of with Howie Mandel when he did the Sandoval interview. Is like these hosts that don't really seem to get the thing that they're actually hosting or seems to understand why the audience likes the show they do. Do you agree with that?
Oh my God. The Love is Blind reunion made me so angry. Like I already am like a Jessica Simpson girly. So Nick Lachey is not my cup of tea to begin with. Like I will hold a grudge.
Do you hold a grudge against John Mayer then?
Of course.
Okay, I didn't know if you were like, no, John's cool. He gets
sexual napalm. No. He's not cool.
Yeah,
with me.
Okay.
He's not cool with me. Andy Cohen maybe is his best friend, and I accept that. But other than that, no John Mayer for me either. No, Nick and Vanessa drive me nuts. I think it's fine for them to host the like date because if you watch Love is Blind, you really barely see them, and the pod episodes like are so hard to even watch because there's so many people, and you kind of just like let it play, and like it gets real when they go to Mexico. But with the reunion, it just goes to show, like everyone always jokes, like get Andy Cohen to host, whether it's a political debate or anything. And he is great. But I think it's what he does is it's like the blaming it on the viewer questions. Like I do that when I interview people. Like I'm like, Twitter had a real problem with the fact that you slept with this girl, Zach, and then didn't break up with her. Like, tell me why you did that. Like, you have to say, like, this is what the audience is saying. Like, I don't care what you thought when you were watching Vanessa Lachey. And your bias is ridiculous. Like, you have to be able to ask a question on both sides and know what to spend your time on. Like, I think the live reunion was a bad idea also because they need them to, like, you shoot for a long time and give us the best parts. That's how reality TV works. And so I really don't know. They're not getting rid of them. I think that's another thing where it's like, Netflix had to come out and say, like, we're not getting rid of them because people just they saw it a petition. Then like one outlet picked it up that there was a petition. So then they just assumed it was true. And to the point where Netflix had to be like, that's not what's actually happening. Like we love Cameron and Lauren from season 1 too, but like, we're not just like fine. The Shays probably have a very intense contract with Netflix. They're not just going anywhere.
Yeah. And somebody pointed out the fact that they've already filmed the next couple of seasons. It's already in production.
Knocked that show out.
Yeah, so it's like they're already a part of that stuff. And I do find it interesting when Love is Blind first happened, it was Nick that was the host, and then Vanessa got brought on. But like, yeah, at the time for a new reality show, that was a huge get for that show was Nick and Vanessa Lachey. But listen, I hope that this kind of lights a fire under their ass where they kind of listen. I think it was celebrity culture too. Nowadays, people, their egos are so big that they don't ever listen to. They're like, well, that's just haters. And I'm like, yeah. Haters sometimes have a point. Like, it's like it's not just hate.
The internet is such a cesspool that like it is, everything can be written off as, even like with reality stars, and you see commentary of like, I've never team really anyone besides Jessica Simpson. No, I'm just kidding. Like when I watch reality TV, like obviously in like Scandoval, it's like, okay, Tom Sandoval is a dick. But most of the time when like housewives are feuding or Summer House, whoever is feuding, I'm not like ride or die for either side. I like watching the conflict. I like debating it. I could probably take anyone's side besides like Tom Sandoval, that's an extreme one, to any degree. Like I don't really go with the team thing. So that's where the internet, I think it's too much. And that's why you can't even listen.
And it's okay to change your mind.
Right. It's my whole thing, my life is strong opinions loosely held. Like that's one of my mottos. Like I will. You can
wait. That's a great title for a podcast, Sarah.
Strong opinions.
Loosely
that is a good.
Oh my god, that's
a good title for a podcast.
Oh wow.
Because I love getting worked up over things that don't matter. Like don't get me wrong, I can be passionate about anything, but the next episode I can be like, you know what? That she is a bitch. Like all of a sudden I'm on the other side. Like you can take it as it's reality TV. They're only showing us certain things. Like I feel like I could argue anything either way. Pro producers, anti producers, like. That's the fun. So I don't like it when people are so intense with their hate, because then the actual like potential facts get lost. And then we're just stuck with people turning off their Instagram comments and saying they've gotten death threats. And now we have to feel bad for everyone. We're not allowed to have an opinion because they got a death threat from a crazy bot on the internet. Like, it's not fun. Everyone calm down.
No. Well, I've been working on this book about how reality shows have taught me how to live my life, as a straight dude and like, barely straight dude. And like, but it is interesting of like the proliferation of where reality shows started to where they are now. And then to learn how to use social media because of reality shows and the arguments going back and forth. And even in the political landscape which we were in, which was so intense, but it almost, reality show people fighting back and forth about New Jersey on Twitter is just as intense as people fighting about Trump and Biden online. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, like I need to worry about my own taxes. And you guys are literally trying to like do their like tax filings for the Jersey people or who see, and I find I'm like, this is wild. Like I'm a fan and I love arguing and hearing information, but these people are getting in there. Like they're digging into like information where I'm like, wait, there's no way you don't have stuff to work on in your own life, or how do you have the time to do this?
You know what made me laugh? I was in the comments of Sophia Richie's Instagram the other day, as one does, because Sophia Richie and Elliot Grange, or whoever his name is, have been,
first
everywhere.
week of marriage. Yeah.
Yes. First week of marriage, husband trip, the whole vibe. So I'm reading the comments, and it was a picture that Joel Madden had posted of Joel, Benji, and Lionel Richie. And in case you don't know, Joel Madden of Good Charlotte fame is married to Nicole Richie. Benji Madden is married to Cameron Diaz. Sophia Richie got married, Nicole's sister. And somebody commented on like Joel Madden's photo. See, this is family. Benji and Joel were both invited, just like how Melissa should have been invited. Melissa's mom should have been invited to Teresa and Louis' wedding. I'm like, someone just took to Joel Madden's Instagram comments to bring up a Real Housewives of New Jersey debate. I was like, but now you think about it, that is interesting that Benji was invited. Like, would I be inviting my brothers-in-laws to my wedding? And now I'm like, whatever. But the fact that someone went to Joel Madden's Instagram or Sophia Richie's Instagram, whichever who posted it, to bring Teresa and Melissa up, blew my mind.
But by the way, that's why we live under one roof of pop culture. So it is like these mashups of everything happens.
Like, do you think the Benji twins know the Madden twins know who Melissa and Joe are? They're like, what does this comment mean? And it was like on the top, I have responses.
I would love a show just about the awareness of celebrities, and I don't even need them to get into it. I just want to ask, hey, are you aware of Real Housewives of New Jersey? And they say yes or no. And then I'm like, moving on. Like, that's all I would love to know. Was Cameron Diaz at that wedding of Sophia Richie?
Yes, Cameron Diaz was there, and their daughter Radix was there. Yeah,
Radix. Yes, Radix. What a name.
I know.
Beautiful. Why were we so captivated by the Sophia Richie wedding? I was in a lot of conversations, and as a dude, I was really trying to understand this because I knew Sophia, of course. I know Lionel Richie. I'm a huge fan. I know she dated Scott Disick very young. Mm-hmm. She seemed like a good person. Like she didn't seem like a jerk or anything like that. I knew the Nicole Richie tie. Her wedding dress obviously was insanely beautiful, but I noticed that this really kind of took fire for a couple of days, or like really caught steam. Why was this wedding so special to so many?
That's a good question. I think one thing is money. It was really over the top and really nice. And I think that people are attracted to that. I think it's kind of similar with Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola's wedding. Like people were, it was just money. And like sometimes when, it's nice to pretend and, be like, this is ridiculous and over the top. I think it's the perfect storm of nothing else was going on. Like it all just depends on the weekend. And it was like her wedding was branded beautifully. She launched on TikTok. Vogue had all the exclusives, and even like her cousin is that guy who's going viral on TikTok, the Octopussy who does the like calls.
That's her cousin.
That's her cousin. So he was there.
The guy that does the
Elliot's cousin. He's somehow related.
Do Lincoln like before, like you're talking to Lincoln before he gets shot.
Signing the Declaration of Independence. He's somehow in the family. He might be Elliot's cousin. He's someone's cousin or second cousin.
Was he at the wedding?
Yeah, he was at the wedding. There? Yeah. So you reached so many demographics with her launching on TikTok, and
Alex Early was there, I'm sure.
Right. And then you had like people who know who like Lionel Richie is because he's older, and like even I think it's one of the like even Nicole and Joel and like Cameron and Benji, they're one of those couples where they're all like famous enough that like when you see a picture, you're like, oh, are they getting divorced? Like it reminds you they're together. Is it the divorce? It kind of sounds the alarm. Like there's not that many like I don't know. I guess Cameron Diaz is obviously A-list, like A-lister couples that I feel like are still together. So when you get them and they hang out together in the same room, that's a huge thing too. So it's like this crossed a lot of different things for
different
people.
like boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I noticed that I was like, wow, we're still talking about this a couple
Yeah.
days. By the way, you said Nicola Peltz and
yeah.
Brooklyn Beckham. I was looking at a picture of them last night, and as I do often on Saturday nights, and I will say something, when Nicola is getting photographed, it always looks like she feels guilty, or like it feels like she does. I know I'm reading into this, but there's like this
Body
element
language expert Ryan Bailey.
yeah. There's this element where I feel, maybe I'm obviously putting this on her, that she doesn't feel like she belongs necessarily. And there's almost an apologetic way I know this is so crazy to say. I was just noticing this last night, and I was like, she always seems like kind of vaguely like apologetic, like, is it okay to be here kind of a vibe? And I don't think that's probably who she is in real life, after reading some of her emails she had sent back and forth about her wedding.
That was a fun lawsuit.
Yeah.
I love a lawsuit, especially if it's something like a wedding and it's rich people fighting. Like, I don't like it when it's serious allegations, but when we get leaked text messages through lawsuits, or we see, you see a lot when you get to see people writing it out themselves, or little like, whatever it's called. I love a lawsuit. And those texts were really funny, because it was like, we don't want Victoria to find out that this is happening about the wedding. And it was like the only confirmation we ever got that there was some tension between Victoria and Nicola, because people have said that for years, and then she didn't wear a Victoria Beckham wedding dress, and they've always tried to be like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But if you're so worried that your future mother-in-law is going to find out that something's going wrong with your wedding, that means you're intimidated by Posh Spice, and that's okay. But like, don't lie, you are.
Yeah, be intimidated by Scary Spice. It's obvious. Yeah.
And she's like friends with Selena Gomez. There's a lot of weird stuff.
Wait, by the way,
Brooklyn
Selena and Zayn, is this taking off or not? I can't believe it. I don't know if this is testing well. Like, I don't really hear. I hear like little whisperings, but then I don't really hear anything. Like,
that's
her assistant's here. They went to Moulin Rouge with JoJo. Like, I hear all of these weird kind of things, but I don't see anything actually cemented anywhere.
Yeah, I honestly, we got to check in on those two. There definitely were hanging out at one point, but I mean, we see Selena, she was with the chain smoker dude. Yeah, Drew too. Like, I think she just, when she's, she goes through phases where she is like, steps out and is like down to play the game. And then she goes through phases where she, has obviously had her own struggles. So then she kind of goes, whatever, like goes back in her shell. So I know they were hanging out. I don't know. It's up there with the Kylie and the Kendall. I don't know how serious any of these things were, but they were spotted together at least once. So we'll see.
You mentioned Cameron Diaz. She was actually filming a movie, her return to filmmaking, actually, with Jamie Foxx. And we still don't know specifically what happened, but Jamie Foxx allegedly suffered a stroke potentially on set. And he has not, I mean, there was some medical emergency. I think we have confirmation of that. But do you know what actually happened to Jamie Foxx on the set of this movie?
I don't. I know that he's been in the hospital for several weeks. And I think there might have been like a setback. Like, I think when they initially released that statement, it was like 12 hours after. And I think we're like, thought it was fine. And now he's still there. And what's interesting is they're still filming that movie. Like, and Cameron Diaz was seen filming with like a stand-in.
Yeah.
There was also like very unfounded reports about this movie right before that, like there was issues and like him and Cameron like weren't getting along. I don't know if any of that was true, but it's a weird one. Like, now hopefully Jamie Foxx is okay, obviously. And it must be to some degree, if they're still making this movie, like the show is going on to some degree. But it's always weird when things like this happen, because obviously there's so many movies that come out that we didn't even know. We missed the announcement, right? And all of a sudden they're in the theaters. But then you have a movie like this, or like we were talking about with this Sydney Sweeney Glenn Powell movie, you think about the Don't Worry Darling of it all. Like, certain movies, like it's some they get big before they're for whatever reason, good or bad, they're in the news, and then you're waiting for this movie to come out. And then there are so many movies that like get made that literally never even get distributed. So it's an interesting one, but I don't know. Honestly, what happened.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully Jamie Foxx will be okay.
Yeah.
Trying to jam in a couple things in this last 5 minutes here.
You're good. I'm fine.
Okay, rest in peace to Jerry Springer, who passed away at the age of 79 years old. Listen, whatever you think about Jerry Springer, everybody had a moment with Jerry Springer, kind of like almost a Wendy Williams in a way. He really meant a lot to daytime television. I think anybody that stayed home from school, that would be on the agenda of what they would watch.
That and Price is Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, did you, so you had a Jerry Springer, you would watch Jerry Springer here and there, right? I think everybody did.
For sure. And I remember that show Baggage that they did on Game Show Network. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh my God, yes. I forgot about that.
I love the Game Show Network. Like, I'm one of those people, if there's nothing else on, like I will watch Family Feud all night. Lingo, whatever.
I was on Baggage. Fun fact, I was on an episode of Lingo with
my ex,
and it was on the Game Show Network. We won $5,000 and 2 espresso maker machines.
It's
And
not just letters, it's lingo.
Yeah, and I remember my ex like yelled at me at one point on the show, I think. I'm trying to remember it. It was,
oh my God, how do I find this?
I don't know. You just said lingo and I forgot that I'd actually done an episode of Lingo. Yeah.
Shut up. That's amazing. I always wanted to be on America Says. It's like fake Family Feud with Michael Higgins, the guy from Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
And it's literally, it's the same thing, but it's easier because they like give you a letter. It's so much easier. But anyway, I've always wanted to be on that. And I loved Baggage, which was like a show Jerry Springer hosted where they had people like meet each other and then like introduce their baggage one by one. Like I like have a foot fetish. My mom like lives in my basement, like just like different things. And then like doing like freaks on there. Oh, so good. So RIP Jerry Springer. Thank you for your service.
I mean, honestly, he was one of those guys too that was like, he started in politics, you guys. He was like the mayor of Cincinnati. And then, what I think was so endearing about him was he was like the straight man in a room full of complete and absolute weirdos. And so it would always be this like, I can't believe this has happened. Like you couldn't believe he was hosting around all of these weirdos. And he really but anyways, rest in peace to Jerry Springer. Like you said, you did good, kid. And then Sex in the City. And just like that, season 2, we finally got our first trailer. What did you think of season 1 and how much did you like Che Diaz?
Honestly, I never finished season 1. I'm not going to lie.
How dare you?
I know. I remember waking up that morning and like watching the first one at like really early and like the big of it all. Oh my God. And then I remember like finding out that the Chris Noth stuff was going to come out, but then like it didn't come out for a few days. And I was like, oh, is this still happening? And oh my God.
So you knew before it was like about to come out.
Yeah. A couple of days.
I had heard stories about Chris Noth for like years. So like that wasn't shocking, but it was shocking that it came out right at the moment he was at the pinnacle of his career because he had just passed away on the Peloton and everybody was like, no. And then everybody was like, yeah.
No, that was nuts. Che Diaz, my God. So I never finished. I I was very much a part of the like online chatter of it, just like that. And like I couldn't, even when I wasn't watching, I was reading the recaps and looking at the memes because it was killing me.
Yeah.
Season 2, the trailer for season 2, I did watch it, and I will say it's giving a little bit more like Sex in the City energy. Like I feel like even like the voiceover and the Aiden of it all. And I don't know, I felt like they might be getting back more to like the roots of the show versus like the like, and just like that season 1 was a little much in my opinion, really, but I don't know.
It really changed the whole like, the mood of the actual show. Like it wasn't Sex in the City. It was like if we made it a little more serious, if we threw everything that's happening in society, right?
Like it was cultural.
It was like
Sex in the City. Yeah.
Carrie was frozen and then all of a sudden got released in 2022. And she was like, wow, what are podcasts? It was this weird thing where I'm like, Carrie, you've been alive this whole time. You didn't just wake up and realize what's happening in New York. But if somebody I forgot where I read this comment. Damn it. I wish, they said that Carrie is Aiden's Mr. Big. And I thought that was so brilliant, is that, Mr. Big meant so much to Carrie in such this way that you saw in Sex and the City, but to Aiden, Carrie is Mr. Big to him. Like
that's interesting.
Even in the second movie, he was like so like he's just obsessed
God, that
with
second
this girl,
movie was ridiculous.
So
I know
bad.
It's so stupid when you think about like Aiden and Carrie getting back together at this point in time, especially because of the second movie. Like it's really dumb, but also like I might have to dabble. But you know what someone said to me to carry it into I don't know if you wanted to talk about Summer House at all.
I do. That's what I'm finished on.
Someone said to me that Carl, which this is, not the nicest thing, so I'm not co-signing it, but it's an interesting thought. In that episode of Sex and the City with the green light, the where they say like a guy has a point in his life at the stoplight where they get to green and they look around and whatever girl is there, they're ready to settle down. And is that Lindsay for Carl? Like, because he is like, he's clearly ready. He wants to get married. I'm not saying he doesn't love Lindsay, but it's also like for men, a lot of it I think is like, you have to get there. Whereas a girl, maybe it's more standard to be dreaming of this or working towards this. And a guy, it's like flips a switch and they're like, oh, I am ready to get married. And who's next to me? And that was like a Sex and the City episode. Well, it's obviously, I don't think it's really true, but someone brought that up to me about Carl.
But that is kind of a brilliant thought because even if you watch this season of Summer House, you really know that Carl has committed. He has like, he'll literally you're so beautiful. You're so, I love you more than the moon and the stars. And like, he'll always, it's almost like he's clicking off something on I think he really feels all of this, but he's also clicking off the list of what he thinks an amazing relationship should be. And that's why it's also so bad, even in last week's episode, when Lindsay comes home a little drunk and like, listen, motherfucker, I want my dude to stay and say F you to Danielle. If she like, like she really went at him, and you saw him completely sober going, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am I doing with my life? And it was so brutal. Where do you stand on the Lindsay Danielle of it all in Summer House, which has lasted the entire season, and it's finally heating up, I guess?
I know it is. I'm a little like not upset, because when I found out that Danielle and Lindsay weren't getting along like months ago, I was like, oh, that's interesting to me. And I was hoping it wasn't just going to be about Carl, because that to me, I really like Danielle. And I don't think, no matter what, it's just never going to look right to be the girl who's like questioning your friend. And it's a reality show. We're only seeing a little snippet of it, but the snippet we are seeing is Lindsay and Carl seemingly having a very functional, healthy relationship. They have known each other for years. We've watched them know each other for years. Yes, it seems fast, but at the same time, does it? Like, if Carl was treating her poorly or anything, there would be a much bigger leg to stand on. But as an audience, we are seeing them happy, healthy, whatever.
And by the way, it's okay to not like, I find it okay to be like, oh, gross, when they're like, babe, right. I find that gross, but I don't think do I want them on the show? Honestly, not really, because I'm bored, but that doesn't mean I don't think they should get married. Like, I'm sure they should. I'm genuinely happy for them. Right. I just don't think it's the best for reality television.
Correct.
To have. And by the way, it makes it even more painful when you do realize Lindsay's wasted and kind of laying into him, because his issues with alcohol. So it kind of makes the viewer feel bad in a way, because you're like, oh, damn, like you guys are so good. Like, just chill out. I wish this wasn't on camera. Like, we've all been in certain situations like that in a way. But like they shook it off the next day really easily, because they have this kind of really good foundation. But the Danielle Lindsay thing, I like Danielle a lot too. But even to me now, it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, come on. Like, you really, your own relationship, you barely see this dude, and you are admitting of like, well, why does it have to be a couple's date? Why can't it just be the three of us? And I'm like, dude, things do change. Like, life does change, unfortunately. And we've all been through that. It's sad.
I empathize with Danielle. I think it's just not going to ever like look good on TV. And like, she can mean well. And I think that she does a really good job explaining it like to Carl, but she hasn't done a very good job explaining it to Lindsay. Even when she's talking to the other girls, I feel like she does a good job. But the scenes with Lindsay, I don't know if it's just because Lindsay can be hard to fight with, but I feel like when those two talk, they get into this back and forth that's just like never going to get anywhere, and they're not really listening to each other. And when they got into the fight of how Lindsay didn't want to go to Montauk or whatever, I feel like all Danielle had to say was, it would mean a lot if you came out with me, because I don't get to see you as much. I know that's partly my fault too, but like, let's go have a fun night. I don't want to put you in a bad situation with Carl, but it's one night. Maybe ask him, like, are you cool with going? And if she was like I feel like it's such a thing girls can relate to. Like, your best friend gets a boyfriend and you feel left out. But all you can really do is say it once, and then it's never going to land. And then you just have to be like, okay, I'm supportive of you. And like, it's not like, it's just never going to work. But when I found out they were like on the outs, I was interested about what it was going to be about. And I'm disappointed. It's either just airing that it's all about Carl, because it doesn't make sense to me. But I also think people on the internet love Lindsay. Like, Lindsay's got stans. And I think Lindsay's great TV. I really do, which again goes back to the not being teams thing. But I always thought it was interesting that like Paige, Amanda, whoever, Sierra, they never really seemed to get along with Lindsay. And I thought that maybe we were going to maybe understand that a little bit more through Danielle. But instead, we're just watching this fight about Carl. So I'm disappointed in a lot of reasons, but that's frustrating me.
I talked to Corey Kiefer this week on the show, and he's now dating Sam, the newbie from Summer House. But I kind of feel like I'm like, what are we not seeing with Lindsay? Like, everybody dislikes her, yet the audience likes her. I like her. I realize she's an extreme personality, but I'm never like, I like extreme personalities. But like, what? Yeah. I feel like the show doesn't do a good job showing us why people don't like her, and I feel like that's like the onus should be on the show of like, well, show us then why. Because if not, you're just literally lowering the stocks of Paige, Amanda, Sierra. We then think they're like bitchy little stepsisters, and like, that's not fair to them sometimes. I really don't know what we're missing here.
I think living with Lindsay is probably just a lot. I think it's kind of like Kristen and Stassi and Katie, that season where they all were mad at Kristen. And it wasn't really landing on the people, and the viewers were like, they're mean to Kristen. And I remember talking to Stassi and Katie at that first BravoCon, and Kristen was like right behind them, and they were like all still actively fighting. And they were like, I mean, you know, Kristen, like she's hard to deal with. And I feel like that's what people, they kind of want to say about Lindsay, but they can't say, we just don't like you, Lindsay, because then we're breaking the illusion of why are these people in a summer house together, which is why this show is at a crossroads. Like they would never be hanging out. They're just different people. But you can't yell, I just don't like you, because then the question is, why are you in the summer house together next year?
And, and by the way, in real life, we don't like certain people. We just don't like them. I've had people just go, I don't like the cut of your jib, but you know, like I just don't like it. Like I'm like that. You know, you sometimes can't explain it, and that is the reality. But you're right; they have a show. I think that's what it is. They have, that is very, very.
And there's no real right side, because I think you could argue that Paige and Danielle them are being mean and don't give Lee a chance. You can argue that Lindsay, you know, probably has a lot to live with. I think all these things are true, and they just genuinely would not be together unless it was for this show. And neither one of them does a good job of like, I think Lindsay is more down to like fake it because she's a reality star at her core. And I think the girls don't really do that anymore. So now it's like we're watching two separate shows. And Danielle, I thought was going to be like kind of shedding light on why this has never really worked. But instead we're fighting about Carl. And it's like, no one's rooting against Lindsay and Carl. Like they seemingly are, it's like the love story of the season right now. Like you're not rooting against them, but I really don't know where they go from that.
Well, I mean, like, it's like two people that actually want to be together. Paige doesn't seem like to really want to be with Craig most of the time. Maya doesn't seem to want to be with Oliver. Kyle and Amanda are great, but they're like deep into a relationship. Yeah. Like there's just a lot of, I mean, that's why I think Corey and Sam at least are fun. Cause I'm like, oh, two people that are like bringing that kind of frenetic energy of like, oh, let's kiss and hook up. And you know, you can already see like a passionate fight with them. So I'm like, I'm game for it.
I don't want to lose them. That's for sure.
No, whatever's good for the overall health of the show, I'm down for. And that's like with Vanderpump Rules, to bring it all back around. You don't give up on these shows, because you keep these shows around just for that moment when something insane happens and you get one of the best seasons of the world. You know, like it was like kind of the Erica Jane, Tom Girardi season a couple years ago. I mean, that was an insanely intense season as well, because they had hung on enough with this cast where eventually life finds a way. Yeah. So
I just don't know what they do with Summer House in the meantime, because they're two different shows. There's the Sam and Corey angle, and then there's like the OGs, you know, throw Paige whatever in there. It's like, I don't want to lose these people by any means. Like I've enjoyed watching them, but it's not really working with these like fake parties and whatever.
Yeah. Do we have to get to a point where we watch Kyle go through liver failure because he's hanging in there way too long? You know,
I don't know. But then it's like, what if we lose them and one of them has an affair and like we're not there? Like I can't risk that. And even seeing like they clearly know, because did you see the seating chart for the reunion? Like Corey has a better seat than Corey. Half of the cast.
Well, by the way, Corey was on this week, and they made me cut out that he was going to be at the reunion, which, by the way, they announced it like a day later, but I had to cut that part out. And I was like, oh, sweet, of course. And they even had Paige really far down on the seating chart of Summer House. And I was like, Maya was like, I think one of the last people there as well.
Where has Maya been? It's like they made the rules. I don't know if it's because there's not enough bedrooms, but like, this is not okay with me. Like they should have to be there every weekend. You should get like one weekend if it's like your best friend or sister getting married. Otherwise, you should be in that freaking house, because then if they're together long enough, maybe we will have history that would make sense for them to be in a house together.
Don't you want to be at, like, if you don't want to be at the Summer House, I don't want you there.
And I don't think you get paid for episodes you're not in.
No, they're like a day player rate, you know.
Like so, catch me and I'd be there first and last to leave, trying to get my screen time.
Cleaning up.
Sorry, family members, I'm missing this wedding. I'm in the Summer House. Yeah. Like,
by the way, I don't care if you have weddings to go to. You have a job. Like, you know how many things I've had to miss over my lifetime. And also, finally, Kardashian's new season. The trailer actually looks decent. I'll probably do a trailer reaction, which you'll be able to see on YouTube, and I'll probably put the audio here. But it does look, actually, who knows? That's the brilliance of editing.
I mean, I was fired up by that first teaser about how bad it looked, and how when they dropped that Kravis special,
horrible.
I was like, this is what they're giving us? This is what they're giving us?
I had a complete disconnect with that Kravis special. Obviously they're in love, and I'm so happy that they have each other, but I thought it was one of the most excruciating, slow things to watch.
Especially a year later. If they dropped that within a month, maybe
they should have interspersed it with the actual show. Right. So the onus wasn't just on them, because when it's just them, it's not that entertaining because it's like the Lindsay Carl thing. They're obviously in love. Like, it's not sometimes the most exciting thing to watch.
The Bachelor, people like, everyone wants what they can't have. So when there's a love story in The Bachelor, they're like, I'm bored. When the guy sleeps with all three of them, they're like, there no one's here for love. It's like, well, I like the drama season, so I'm like here for messing up in the fantasy suite. But people always want what they can't have. But with the Kardashians, I am so intrigued by the Kourtney and Kim fight feud.
Listen, that's been brewing for so long. We had like an actual physical altercation like 3 seasons ago when they were on E still. And, you know, that has never really truly gone away. And I'm all here for it. Like, by the way, it's one of those things where you can see both sides. In the trailer, Kourtney is like, listen, this to the core of Kim's being, this is who she is, somebody that needs attention and opportunity. And I can't disagree with Kourtney on that, even though I like Kim.
Right. Totally. Kourtney's insufferable, honestly. But like, imagine being Kim Kardashian's sister. That's wild. Like, I don't know. I think that's what's good at the Kardashians at their core, at their best, is when there's like family drama and something happening to them. You need things to happen. And this is one at least that hasn't played out anywhere else. There's been rumors for a while about Kourtney and Kim. I think there was some stuff on like Dumois, but it was never like, we're not unfollowing each other. We're not uninviting each other from things. Like, they've kept up the appearances enough that we're going to be learning new information. And that's what we need from the reality show. Otherwise, like, no one cares enough anymore to like watch them do nothing. I feel like last season 1 was so good. Season 2, so bad.
Season 2, the first episode was great. And then it completely fell apart because it was the Chloe episode regarding Tristan.
Yeah, the Met Gala for like 7 weeks. Like, it was insane. And now we're a full year later. It's also like, if they were just quicker on the turnaround, I think it would be.
Well, I didn't know if that was on purpose that they waited this long because there was an exhaustion of Kardashian related materials. Probably. But, you know, I'm going to be watching every episode. I'll be covering it on Here You Guys. I thought the trailer looked really good. I can't wait to see Chloe be a clown again with Tristan. There's so many angles that they could take with this. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then, is there anything else you're watching or recommend for people? Are you doing the Succession Yellow Jackets
of
combo?
Course, I'm doing Succession. I haven't started season 2 of Yellow Jackets yet because I watched season 1 like very quickly. So I think I wanted to wait for a few to build up. Yeah, we're Succession. I don't enjoy know, man.
I'm not fully on. I loved Yellow Jackets season 1 so much, and
season 2 not good.
I'm trying to find ways to love it. Okay. But it's like Succession is so easy to love, and then I go to Yellow Jackets. I love the first season so much, and it's not. I think when you know the creators go a certain way, and you're not like, you're like, I wish in my head I would have gone. You know, it's a weird thing where I spent so much time thinking about it that when it didn't go the way that I thought it should go, and the tone of the show now is. I mean, it's always been jokey, but they're leaning so much more into the quirky element of the show.
Oh God.
And I don't know. I think they have such amazing actors that they don't necessarily need to rely as heavy on quirk as they do.
Yeah,
like
even
that
makes sense.
Older Van, who is the actress who was on 6 Feet Under that I loved. She just finally she made it onto the show, and she runs a video cassette store. And I'm like, guys, like, what a throwback to like, I'm like, come on, it's a lot. So Sarah Ambrose, I think Lauren Ambrose.
Season 1 was just so good too, that it probably would have just been better as like a limited series, like kind of vibe, like those actors. It's an amazing cast, and I'll still watch season 2, but it's such an out there concept. And it was so crazy that if they wrapped it up, maybe more with them getting like rescued, it probably would have made more sense.
Well, but I mean, I was a fan of that show Lost, and the second season was a huge disappointment for me. And then they found their footing again in season 3. So it's one of those things as fans where, like I always say, very sophisticated at this point, where it's like, well, maybe season 3, it's like Vanderpump Rules. Maybe it'll come back around and have an insanely good season. And by the way, we're only halfway through this season. So it could get so much better. They might just be setting all of these loose storylines up. Is there anything else that you're loving right now?
I'm watching that Apple TV Plus show, The Last Thing He Told Me, with Jennifer Gardner, because I read the book. I started trying to read books that weren't written by celebrities this year. That's my new goal. Because I really was reading so much trash that I had to.
Oh yeah, I listened to so much audiobooks of like Bravo celebrities. It's like,
there's no book by a Bachelor contestant that I haven't read, and you know what? Like, good for them, but like, my God. So I'm trying to read more, and that was a good book, and I love Jennifer Gardner, and I think that's like it's going to be like a mini series. It's like a mystery. It's a good show. How do you think Succession's going to end?
I think they're all going to die. No. Listen, I think, well, the two things I think it's going to go to Sarah Snook and I think Sarah Snook and her husband are actually going to get back together, Tom, and I think they are going to team up and actually go against everybody. And I think they could potentially succeed, or I think none of the kids succeed, and it really is Matsson. And really, because Matsson in this last episode got the brothers like completely. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like, you know, and I think that show, as much as I hate that it's ending after season 4, you're like, oh, but what a way to go out, because each episode, we're 5 episodes in, each one has been so good. Even the callback to Kendall driving to or being driven to the office at the beginning of the episode with Jay-Z playing. And it was a throwback to the first episode when he was about to succeed in the very pilot episode, and they had rap music. And you know, these people are so despicable, which is like a lot of the people on Vanderpump Rules. You really love the journey, and it is so, just the writing is so good that it's really a show you can watch 2 or 3 times per episode and get something new each time, or get a new joke, you know?
Yeah. I'm hoping that they give, what's his name, Roman, that he gets to come out on top, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a really depressing ending. I somehow think it's going to, like, they're all going to lose. I don't know. Yeah,
the show has never been about happiness.
No. So, and I don't know what would be, because for someone to win means someone would lose inherently, but I just kind of feel like, I don't know. And just watching like Shiv like drink throughout this whole like pregnancy, like I just feel like something.
I mean, she was doing coke. She was doing a little pump of coke, and I was like, "Geez!" But it's so great is that when the audience's mind is activated, you're trying to figure out the puzzle of like, is Matsson playing Shiv? Is Matsson's obviously trying to play the brothers?
Seems like Shiv's getting a win now, and I don't know. Tom is great, Mr. Darcy, and then
oh my god,
it's crazy.
You know, I never was a Mr. Darcy Sense and Sensibility guy. Like, so it is funny for girls to tell me how much his character meant
Pride and
to
Prejudice.
them. Pride and Prejudice, how much it meant to them, him. And I'm like, oh, he's a dork. And I didn't realize, no, he's just an amazing, amazing actor.
Yeah, no, you cannot. I watched Pride and Prejudice again recently, and it was a mistake, because now that I'm watching Succession again, I'm like, oh my God, like Tom, like it's too much. It breaks your brain. It really does. But I love Tom. I think Tom and Shiv that would be a fun twist if they did somehow pull it back together and took down the brothers, but I don't know.
Well, by the way, guys, I watched Life After Lockup, which had its season finale this Friday. It is the trashiest of trash reality shows, but they also had an insanely good season. But it is one of the things that I look forward to watching every week, and I'm very sad that it's done. But it is one of the, like, you follow it all. They're just horrible, horrible people, and that I think is the connective tissue with all of the shows that we love and watch. You've got to be a horrible, horrible person, and really, so we can sit there and feel good about our own lives going, we're not as horrible. Absolutely. Sarah Hearon, thank you so much. It has been so long, man. You are so damn good at this. Really, sign up for the Us Weekly alerts. You're going to love them. Also, the podcast. I know we have Bachelor Nation out there soon. Still, nobody ever leaves. It's here for the right reasons. When you subscribe, also just automatically leave it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. She's also, like, I guess, on Hot Hollywood and all of this stuff. But I think you are a legend in your profession. And I'm so, like, I mean, what is coming up for you personally? Do you ever want to write a book or anything?
Oh my God.
What's the goals?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would love to write a book. My dream was always like to be like a TV writer, actually, at my core, but I don't know. I'm still loving Us Weekly. It's been 5.5 years, some way, somehow, that I've been.
Do you make yourself write like scripts still? Like
no, I haven't in
scripts
so
or anything?
long. I have not in so long, but I'm
what
just
show
so
would you
freaking busy.
I know you're busy, but what show would you like go, oh, I would do they call them spec scripts, you guys, and usually you write in the style of that show. Is there a show that you're like, oh, if I ever did that, I would love to write for this show?
I mean, probably like at my core, I would just go back to like a teen drama of some sense, like just like get me in a high school and like start these like love triangles going. But I don't really know. That's like the far off dream for now. Like, I'm good with doing the Bachelor podcast with writing is still my favorite. So I edit a lot and I do a lot of assigning and stuff, and it's fun, but getting to write is my favorite thing. So when there's a big scandal like Scandoval and I'm the person on the staff that knows the most, it's kind of nice to just be like, all right, I'm going to put my head down, write this out. Luckily, I'm going to Portugal in a few days, so at least I get to skip the coronation and get a little refresh, and we'll be
amazing. Good. Oh, that's so, you're going to have such a bad, oh my God.
Yeah.
And how hard is it to not editorialize? Like, you know, I have the benefit of I'm able to like do my full opinions on these podcasts and like say, I flip in it, but you can't really do that. You guys are professional to a degree. How hard is it to not throw your own opinions in these things?
Well, writing, it's not hard at all. I think it's actually easy. It's when you do like a podcast and you're kind of like in front of a mic. And I just try to think like, if the person is possibly ever going to hear this, like, would I be able to stand by what I'm saying? But I also think with reality TV, which is why it's so fun to cover, is because they're famous for being themselves. Like, they're here for us to commentate on it. When it becomes like an actor or an actress and you have a strong opinion, it's much more difficult and you have to kind of like think it through. But with reality TV, like, you're no one unless you're talked about. Like, you got to keep it going. So you remember it that way. But in the writing sense, that's something I feel like, you know, you have to teach writers a lot of times. There can be a cutesy thing here or there, but at the end of the day, like, it's just to get the information out there. Like, it's not really about like what you think is like a funny lead at like
that's the background of your script. That's the background of your script right there. You're teaching Us Weekly writers to get to the best, but then you have a love interest. They have a love interest. It's like the newsroom. It's like insane. Also, I wanted to show you this. This is the official Richella bracelet from Richella that Tom Sandoval gave me. Why
did he give you that?
Because I interviewed him for the podcast and I went over to his and Ariana's house like last January.
And he was like,
I was there for like 3+ hours. And he was like, dude, here, I'm going to give you this, dude. There's only 16 of these in existence, dude. And he also gave me Jax's like old man hair when they dressed up for his bachelor party and they hired the makeup artist. Or no, it was Jax's bachelor party when they did the old man makeup.
Yeah.
He gave me Jax's old man hair and he gave me a Tom hat, a lemon from his lemon tree, a whiskey, his Tom's Good Lovin'. I had to ask to leave finally at 3 a.m. But anyways, I just thought you would like that.
I do appreciate that. Donate that to the next BravoCon museum. You might get a pretty penny.
I'm opening my own museum. Hey, are you going to go to BravoCon?
I hope so. We're still working on that over there, but I hope so.
Well, I hope to see you there. I hope to talk to you before then.
Yes,
but Sarah Hearon, you guys, I'm going to also put her Instagram. Go follow her Instagram so you can follow her travels in Portugal. And this was amazing. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.